Close the door behind you. You're now in the green room.
Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Green Room. I'm your host, Keddy Emmanuel. I'm in here today with Kiera Yankson, a familiar face. This is the first time we've had a repeat guest in the Green Room. It's something that I plan on doing moving forward a bit more. It's nice to have people back. So Kiera, can you just say hello to folks? Give a quick introduction.
Okay. Hello, everybody. It's an honor for me to be here. I hope that you guys are having an amazing summer and that the year goes really, really well, even in spite of COVID. And hope that you enjoy this conversation. Introduction. I'm Kiera Yankson. I play bass. And I love music. I am actually studying bioengineering at UPenn. And I kind of basically live both in New York and Philadelphia, so that's been cool.
All right, East Coast, we're here for it. So I kind of want to use this conversation to go over a couple of things that we didn't really dig into in the last episode. There's so many things to talk about in so little time. So kind of what I wanted to use this episode for was to make you a little bit more uncomfortable. I'll play it. But I just wanted to just hash out some more stuff, man. Some stuff we kind of briefly mentioned, and I was kind of going back for our conversation and saying, yeah, I kind of want to talk a little bit more about this or that. So we'll kind of just see how that plays out.
Okay, let's do it.
So in the last episode, we talked a little bit about platforms for learning, right? Basically saying that nowadays you don't really have an excuse not to learn. You don't really have an excuse not to grow. And one of the platforms that we did mention was YouTube, right? And you mentioned that, you're a fan of YouTube. YouTube is great. I agree. But I was kind of wondering, what are some channels that you found useful, or anything that come off the top of your head that you've used to learn and actually grow on YouTube?
Yeah. Man, there's a lot. Everybody knows Justin Raines, Daric Bennett, Federico Malaman, Hadrian Farad. There's just wow. There's so many. I don't remember even some of the channels' names, but there's Jermaine Morgan. He's on there. There's just so many. Like there's even more now than when I first started. That it's like I'll go on and search like modes, concepts, or something on bass, and then so many new channels will just pop up. I'm like, whoa, where'd you guys come from? But there's a lot. There's a lot out there.
So is it possible then that a recommended approach, right? Let's say I just bought my first 4-string bass from Sam Ash, right? And I want to learn. There's nobody to teach me. But, I know there's YouTube. Would a good strategy kind of be just finding the topics that I want to go over and searching those instead of...
Well, before I answer, one other person, Scott's bass lessons. Like everybody know about Scott's bass lessons, but
the glove.
Yes, he's the GOAT. I don't know how to answer that question for everybody, because as much as there's a lot out there, it can get confusing, and you can end up lacking direction and end up like skipping things in terms of like, everybody knows, start with the scales, but then what happens after that? Like, what's the next step that makes the most sense to do after that? A lot of people will just go in different directions, which is good, but also sometimes we'll end up not knowing certain things that we need to work on, and then like going to more complex things and then lacking a foundation. So YouTube is great because everything's there, but it's also difficult because everything's there and there's no like set order or kind of recommended order and things like that. So I think like YouTube is a great tool that can be coupled with either finding a mentor or talking with other people who are playing your instrument. But even a lot of these people that have these YouTube channels, they also have actual structured lessons in an order. Like Daric
Right.
Bennett, I believe, has his like online academy.
Right. He has a whole
Craftspace.
syllabus, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, like they have online academies and things like that too, that will give you the same content that's on YouTube, but more of it, and in a good order that will help you to build the foundation and then, you know, get into the more complex things in the right time. So it's a little mix right there, but
And viewers and listeners, let me tell you what, I'm going to take some of the channels that we spoke about today, and I'm actually going to put them in the caption, the description here, because we want to add as much value as possible and actually capture that for you. And also something that I want to mention is when you are learning on YouTube, now there's this nice tiny little button on every YouTube video where you can actually change the playback rate. So let's imagine the tutor is going through over some, let's say the pentatonic scale, right? You can now slow that down to like half speed and just watch them play that over and over again. Watch it in like, just watch it slow down until you get it. So it's a very good tool, very useful tool, which, you know, I should be using more myself.
my that joint came in clutch for me. Learning like difficult songs and stuff too. Like go on YouTube, slow that song down to actually hear the hits like clearly and things like that. That joint is, whoever came up with that idea, A1, because it's amazing. It's an amazing tool.
Yeah. Back in the day, I used to use Audacity a lot. And I would just take that and like slow down a piece of a track and just listen to that. Right? I tried to get it that way. So yeah, check it out, guys. As I said, let me know if I broke my promise, but I'm really intending to put all those channels in the description just for you guys to refer back to those channels. And, you know, it's all about growth here, right? So another thing that we went over on the last episode, and also I'm trying to be better at this. Let me just hop in here, guys, and say like, subscribe, and share the video. You have to say that on these things. So I said it, so do it, okay? So, all right. So the other thing that you mentioned on the last episode is you said that your musical journey is kind of connected to your life journey. In essence, basically, you know, your growth on your instrument, your journey on your instrument has also helped you grow as a person in some ways. And I think that's very true. Playing music and being an instrumentalist has taught me perseverance. It's taught me how to learn and kind of given me confidence in the learning process, right? It kind of teaches you that, okay, something might be a little difficult right now. It might sound crazy, but if you sit down with it, take your time with it, and, you know, really put the effort in, you're going to learn it. There's almost nothing that's not true for, you know, anything that's not true for just means you just have a lot of time that you need to put in, but you're eventually going to learn it, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So without answering the question too much myself, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, what you said is exactly true. Like learning patience, learning perseverance, hard work, dedication, things like that. Learning how to express yourself and not feel silly doing it. You know, confidence, definitely being able to turn up the bass all the way, or your instrument, whatever you play, like turning that up and letting people hear you. And then also it helps with kind of, I don't know the proper term to describe it, but when you're a perfectionist, a lot of times, you know, you'll play or you'll do something and you mess up and it's like the end of the world. But I think like doing music, it kind of, in a way, you're forced to not be the same way in a certain regard. Like you can't just stop playing when you mess up. You have to keep going. You can learn from those mistakes later. You go home from your gig or whatever, you listen to the recording, you sit down, you shed on that song, you make sure it's straight. So I guess like that's more like resiliency or learning to get up after you mess up and keep going. Another thing could be just learning to be assertive and managing your time, saying no, knowing when to say yes. A lot of that type of stuff definitely has been helped by music for me, especially the assertiveness. It's difficult to talk about money. That's one of the things that I've had to do more of, and it's still difficult for me to do, but I think that over time it's something that you get better at, setting boundaries and saying no and things like that. So definitely so many life lessons that come from being a musician, come from the music itself. Like if you analyze a song, like a song has dynamics, it has high points, it has lower points, but all together it comes and paints a beautiful picture. And that's kind of like how life is too. Like you're not really gonna have like a high life the whole time, or well, hopefully not a low life the whole time either. But all those things, like both highs and the lows, they come together and paint a beautiful picture. And I think there's just so much you can learn from music. It applies to just so many things.
Right. No, absolutely. I particularly like that last part you mentioned there about like music builds, right? You know, you and pretty much especially in the worship context, every song comes out the gate really mellow, and then it builds and then comes back down, right? And that is very similar to life. You know, you have ups and downs, and I think that's something that music does teach you. I'll be a little vulnerable there for a minute. So let me tell you guys what you were saying, talking about in terms of like messing up and having to keep going. Yo, I have like, there's videos on YouTube that I could pull up where I can hear myself mess up. And you know, if you play a bad note on bass, people feel it. Like you feel that in your stomach. It's like a punch in your gut, right? So yeah, man. And especially nowadays, when you mess up, sometimes it's recorded forever because everybody's streaming now. So if you mess up, it doesn't matter what you play, if it's bass or guitar or whatever, as a musician, you still have to push through. There's an entire rest of the song. You don't mess up and say, oh, all right, guys, you know, that's it. Guess I can go home.
Hopefully not.
All right. And I think that's a very good lesson, because the same is true for life, right? All of us mess up. And some of us mess up in a very permanent way. And we still have to keep pushing. We have to get up, brush yourself off, keep at it, right? And I think that's a really beast lesson there.
There's something somebody told me that I think resonated with me a lot, is that your best changes. And one thing about perfectionism is that a lot of times it makes you feel like you have to be like on 100 all the time. But every day that you wake up, your best doesn't have to be the same. And giving yourself the space to be a human being is important. As much as it is to try at least to be consistent, when you aren't, it's not like, oh yeah, I'm completely just terrible. At least like, it's like, no, like I'm a human being. We have good days, we have bad days. Our 100% is, I mean, our best is not going to look the same every single day and every year. And, you know, if you're going through a tough time, your best is not going to look the same as if like you're living the best life. It's not. And you have to give yourself the space to be that human being. So.
All right. Did you hear about the whole Simone Biles thing?
Yeah.
And what we were talking about just reminded me of that, right? I think it's just the constant mental pressure, because if you really look at this lady's career, right? She's been like, you just go to Wikipedia and look at her medals. It's gold. for years, gold. Like the thing people don't realize is that that comes with a lot of perfectionism, a lot of very, very hard work, a lot of pressure for a very, very long time. And it's unfortunate, but unsurprising that at some point she just had to take a break.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think we all should get to a point where we can do things like that. Like, I think her doing that sets a really good precedent for all the rest of us, because I know a lot of people have this mentality of, well, no matter what is occurring, you just have to push through, even if that means compromising your mental health, even if that means compromising your physical health. It's like this mentality that we've been taught for so long. It's like, yeah, don't sleep for 5 days as long as you get it done, you know, but it's like, that's not healthy. And it comes at a cost. It really comes with a cost. And I think that we should normalize being able to take care of our bodies and our minds, and not prioritize certain things over that. It's at the end of the day, your health is important. And it's something that we all gotta, and especially musicians, like, I don't think it's talked about enough in the musician world, about like prioritizing health. You know, a lot of times you're running from this place to this place. You're not eating the right types of foods because it's like convenience food all the time. You're just trying to get, you're trying to run from this place to this rehearsals to this service. You're just like, oh, let me just stop at somewhere like Wendy's, get a 4 for $4 and go about my way, get some chicken wings, you know. And then like you're sitting all the time. It's easy to be like, yeah, I just gotta grind and gotta get this done. I gotta set this computer for 10 hours and not get it because I have to get this music produced or do whatever. But we also have to think about our health. Like, even if it just means like, okay, every hour stand up for 10 minutes, even if you're still working, you know, give one of them table things that
standing desk.
Yeah, standing desk. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all in on the standing desk. The standing desk are cool.
Yeah, I need to get one because he's saying too much, especially with this, you know, remote stuff. But anyway, I think that it's important that we all take a long look at our behaviors and our habits and try to balance a lot of those things out with taking care of ourselves, giving ourselves breaks to let our brains rest, let our bodies rest, work out. Even like sometimes we don't want to always be at rest. Sometimes you gotta walk or something.
Yeah, you know? Or something.
You know?
Nah. So have you ever been at let's say you're at this concert, right? Or some gig, some event, and you see a band come in, and let's say it doesn't matter what the person's playing, really. Just a musician walks in and he is fat, like obese, right? And as soon as you see the person, there's a musician next to you that's like, yo, that guy's obese. Like, he has to be obese. Like, we associated fat with musical greatness. Am I the only one who sees this?
No, that's true.
Is that not true?
You're right. You're right. No, you're right.
So I'm just saying that it's great that you pointed out that musicians need to take care of ourselves. Like, we have to take care of ourselves, like work out, go for a walk. I know it's difficult sometimes because you're also learning songs. You're most of your work is in your studio. You're sitting down all the time, you know. But you also have to balance that with taking care of your body.
Yeah, and then the mind portion, like being a musician can be exhausting mentally and emotionally, because like in conversations I have with a lot of friends, it's like you're always giving as a musician. Like when you go somewhere, you play, you're giving energy, you're giving, as a church musician, you're giving worship, you're like helping to facilitate an environment and help everybody else to feel good. But and I think amongst musicians, depression is a really big thing. I think that I don't know how to solve this issue, but we have to figure out a way to fill ourselves back up and to replenish ourselves mentally and emotionally, because it's real. It's a lot of people, a lot of musicians, a lot of people in general, with these types of situations, we'll try to fill it up with other things that can be detrimental to them in the long run. So it's like, I don't know, like I said, I don't know what to suggest to fill yourself back up, to replenish yourself, but it's something that is important to think about.
No,
so that you're not always running on E.
For sure. Just speaking about healthy ways of doing things, I just remembered this video that was circulating on social media very recently. I'm pretty sure you saw it. I think it was in the realm, Black Surfers realm. Basically, I think Bishop Paul Morton. For those of you who don't know, he's PJ Morton's dad, and he's also a fixture in gospel music. But he was preaching and he's making his appeal. This was hilarious. You saw like 3 little guys, young looking guys. Like these guys they look like they're 15, 14. I don't know how old they were, but like they just scuttle across the stage because they're trying to get to their post, because they were probably in the green room, they were probably in the back, and I think everybody's been there where it's like, yo, it's the appeal, right? So they're like literally sprinting across the stage trying to get back to their post. And Bishop Morton was like, yo, musicians, I'm gonna see y'all after, because that's not gonna fly, right? And there were differing opinions on that. Some people were saying, nah, he can't tell them what to do. These bishops think they have all the power in the world. And then some other people were like, nah, they're being disrespectful. They're being like irresponsible with leaving their post, or at least not getting back to their post in a timely way, and basically front flipping across the stage trying to get to try to get to their seats. So what do you think about that?
I feel like there's so much that we just don't know, because at the end of the day, like I know a lot of people are saying that's not the right way to talk to your musicians and all these things, and like I've not experienced that, so it's difficult for me to understand like what other people have been through that form their opinions and things like that. But also we just don't know like the relationship that he has with his musicians. And I think like later on they apologized to him publicly.
Probably. I didn't see that.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a hard because I don't believe that he did that out of spite or out of like anger or anything like that. I think that he generally did care about his musicians. Some people are like, well, maybe just talk to them after and things like that, which I can see as well. But then there's a larger conversation that I think this became a thing because of that there are bishops out there and there are people out there in leadership positions that do degrade their musicians publicly all the time. But this specific incident, like I can't really speak on, because like I said, I don't know what, the relationship is between, the people in the situation. But on a larger scale, I think that there are there's a lot of issues that can occur between musicians and leadership in churches that needs to be discussed.
No, and I can echo the fact that I haven't really experienced rudeness from anybody that I was playing behind, but I have been the musician front flipping across the stage, which I'm not proud of. Like, you come in and then, during the sermon, you're kind of in the back, there's refreshments or whatever, and then you get really comfortable, you're kind of hanging out on your phone. And I'm not advocating for this. I'm just saying that I've been in the seat. And the reason I'm saying this is because it's so easy to get into that. And then all of a sudden one day you hear the voice speaking huskily, and there you realize, oh shoot, it's the appeal, right? And in our case, I think I just spoke to Be Natural about this on the last episode here. But basically, we had to walk like the entire length of the church, like in full view of the entire congregation, all the way from the back to all the way in the front. And you just have to take it. I mean, you have to get there, so you just have to do the walk of shame.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, it's like also because one whole other side of the conversation was musicians do sit there from before service starts, all the way through the service, no water, bathroom breaks, stretch the legs, nothing. So I think like there is a certain, like, I feel like we should be allowed to, go use bathroom, we need use bathroom. But out of respect also, I guess, like, we could come back in during the sermon. And like,
sometimes people be chilling in the back.
But then like, it's like also difficult because everybody has their own agreements of what's required of them and different like that. So I guess it's just like, know where you are and what's expected of you, and try your best to do that.
Yeah. And I think a big part of it too is like also sometimes musicians are playing more than one service as well. So let's say you have like 3 services back to back in that church. I mean, you're gonna get tired, and you might be hearing the same sermon back to back. So I don't know, but I just thought that video was funny, and I think it opened up a very interesting dialogue in terms of what was going on there. Earlier we were talking about mistakes and pushing through mistakes. Do you have any recommendations for ear training?
For what?
Ear training.
Ear training.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes. So I learned ear wise instead of like, I don't read. I'm trying to learn to do that too. But I think one of the things that definitely helped me was associating certain intervals with different things that like for instance, what's a good one? An octave sound. The way that I hear an octave is by singing the Somewhere Over the Rainbow, like that somewhere. It's an octave. So like every time like someone's like, oh, singing the octave of this, I'll just be like, am I somewhere? And go to that note because that's an octave. And then the 5, I think of the Veggietales theme song. I don't know if y'all know what Veggietales is, but it's like dun, 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 dun.
I can't remember the theme song right now. So y'all can probably look that up on YouTube. I have to look it up. I can't remember it right now.
When you do look it up, don't judge me, okay? It's interesting to me, okay? And there's other people like me, okay, that like this stuff, so okay. But
no, I like Veggietales. Don't get me wrong.
Okay, because I know some people.
When I was a little kid, yeah, I used to be on the Veggietales train.
Yes. But yeah, the 1 and the 5, I use that. Or there's other things like Dragon Tales, the end of Dragon Tales. Dragon Tales. Da-da.
I can't remember any of these theme songs, but guys, I'm just going to tell you right now, look them up on YouTube. They're all on YouTube. I know they're there. So yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I use like different things to kind of that I've associated with intervals that are really the intervals, but that I know in my mind for sure to kind of figure out. But I think like as time, there's apps too, by the way. There's apps that like train your ear. I think one is called Tone. Yeah, there's an app called Tone. It's really good. It'll train your ear to kind of hear different intervals and recognize the notes for them too. Because like the way I do it is really just intervals. Like it's not necessarily note sounds either. So like for instance, knowing what a G sounds like is different from what I do of being like, okay, I know that the interval from like G to C versus actually knowing what G sounds like and what C sounds like. But there's apps that can help you do that. That one is a subscription app, so it might cost some money.
Bread.
but it's good nonetheless. I'm sure there are probably YouTube videos and things like that that could also help, but I think the more you play, the more you listen to music, the easier it's going to be to kind of start to hear those intervals just naturally. Like when you're learning a song, like when I first started learning the songs, I didn't even know which part of the scale I was playing. I just heard a note and I would try to find the note on my fretboard and I would just play that note. But if you ask me like, oh, what is that? I couldn't tell if it was the 4, 6, 5, 2, and 7. I couldn't tell you. But I think as time goes on, like you get so used to hearing those intervals, it's like you're listening to a song in the car and you learn the song by listening to it in the car because you just know like, oh yeah, that's a 4, 6, 5, 1, 4, 6, 5, 7, 1. Like, you know, you just know. So I think like consistency is very important for training your ear. Sorry, that's the thunder. I don't know if you heard that, but
oh wow.
Okay.
Yeah, it's raining where I am too. Yeah,
is very important when it comes to that, and always associations always help, at least for me. Don't know what works for everybody, but associations can potentially be a very good tool.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I've kind of had a rough journey on the air training tip, because when I started out, when I like just started out, I used to just be, because my church had guitarists, so I'll just be looking at the chords the guitarist was playing. I'll be like, okay, he's going to it, okay, and then okay, you know, and I was just following around, and I did that for a little while, and then, you know, shout out to Kiera and Tiso if you're watching this. Who knows? He was a pianist at my church, and he got upset one day, and he was like, "Yo, come here," and he basically had me start listening, right? And that's when I started to form patterns and say, okay, so this, okay, and that, and you start to form these patterns. And very similar to what you were saying, like I have middle C built into my chest somewhere, like
Yes,
it just built into me. And so let's say somebody were to run up to me and say, "Hey, what is this note?" Right? In my head, I have to go start do re mi fa sol la ti do until I find that note. And even that, I mean, I don't have perfect relative pitch in that regard, so I'll always be like a tone off or a semitone off. But
that's still pretty good though.
Yeah, but like that's my way of getting close, right? But similar to what you were saying, after playing for a while, you get to a point where, oh, like the 7 is very recognizable, and everything just becomes, you're like, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, oh, flat 2, flat 5, flat 7, right? And all of that, they become like, I don't want to use colors because I think there are many musical beasts that actually see colors in their head when they hear these notes. I do not, but I can relate in terms of it becomes recognizable in the same way that you recognize colors. But yeah, so that's interesting. Are you vaccinated? Can we be on this call?
I am. Oh Lord Jesus. Okay.
Did you have any reservations or fears, or like, what are the people around you saying about getting vaccinated?
There's a lot of different viewpoints. I think that some of the viewpoints do come from a lack of understanding of certain things about the vaccine, and I don't put that all on the people. I do put that also on the medical and scientific communities who, I mean, I think this time around they've actually been pretty good at giving information about it, but historically speaking, they have been they don't tend to be very clear sometimes. So I think that creates mistrust for generations that that kind of is showing its face now. But a lot of people have been kind of skeptical of it because of how much is being pushed. And I think that there's a lot of misinformation that is circulating around that's causing confusion as well about like what's in the vaccine, how it works. And I think also because of all the fears of this particular situation, that we've forgotten a lot. Like we all know, like when you get vaccinated, that it's not a cure. We all know this from other vaccinations. Like we take the flu vaccine, or we'll take like whatever other vaccines we take, and we know it doesn't make it so that you can never get it. It makes it so that if you do get it, that your body can fight it off more quickly or efficiently. And from a more scientific point of view, vaccines, what they do is I'm going to put in these words. I'm not going to say them in like super scientific words. So if it's like technically wrong, I'm just trying to paint a picture. So don't,
No, you're good. Go ahead.
On the details, but it is an aid to your immune system. Like it allows your body to see. Okay, so before we get into all that, how your immune system works is the first time it sees something, it'll have this immune response, and your body will create antibodies so that the next time this thing enters your body, there's already antibodies made for that specific invader that it can use to kill off. And because they're already made, the way your body is going to react is not going to be as strong as, I mean, it's going to be more robust, but it won't be as difficult for your body to fight off because your body is now prepared. It's seen it before, it knows what to expect, and they've built a specialized army to fight against that one type of invader. Vaccines provide the first response, like it introduces the invader to your body so that the body says, oh, okay, now we have antibodies that we've created for this invader. So the next time we see this thing, we are ready to fight it. But it doesn't mean that as soon as this invader enters the next time, that automatically is like a shield blocking it from coming in. It still can come in, but your body is more prepared to fight it. So that's really, I guess, in basic terms, how vaccines work. In this vaccine, I'm studying bioengineering. So I'm a part of the scientific community. And I find the Moderna and Pfizer vaccine to be just amazing science. So it's something that is not as new as people think it is. This is something that has been studied for a large amount of time. It's just the application for this specific use is new, but the technology in of itself, the concept in of itself, has been thought about for a long time and has been looked at and studied for a long time. But yes, I think at the end of the day, there's just a lot of things that need to be clarified for a lot of people. And there's a lot of views that won't ever get resolved because there's just so much that would need to happen for a lot of people to be comfortable enough to take it. And I think that those things that are expected to happen won't happen for a very long time. So
things like what?
Trust. Like somebody, you know, your childhood friend, like a childhood friend, like turned and backstabbed you and like hurt you at 6 years old. And then at 12, they're over here offering you candy. You're going to be like, is this poison? Because you were never a nice person to me. Why would I trust that you now have my best interest in your heart? You know what I'm saying? That type of thing where it's like, it's not like the government has always been very forthtelling. And I understand that. And it's not like the scientific medical communities have been very transparent in the past either. So for a lot of people, it's kind of like, well, why should I believe now that you have my best interest in heart? So I think there's a lot of mistrust, and that I don't necessarily think is going to be resolved like now.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I got the vaccine because look, I'm tired. Okay. I'm tired. I want the presence of mind. I mean, I want to lessen my fears. And I understand that the vaccine won't just make it so that I can never contract COVID. Like I know that there are, like, I think Pfizer was like 80%. What is effective? I don't remember the percentages, but they're not 100% effective. 1, 2, vaccines in general aren't cures. They're aids to help prevent certain responses from your body. So I'm very aware that I still have to be safe and still practice like certain things. But I think overall, my worry is less than it was before, because I do have an added layer of protection. Also, I mean, look, I'm tired of being in the house, man. I just want outside to open back up so we can get on about our business. So that we don't have to take classes online all day. Oh my goodness. I'm just ready for it to be over. And I just want to do my part to help that happen. I do trust the science. I understand how it works. I think that that plays a large role in like that. But and at the end of the day, let's say hypothetically that the vaccine does not work to the amount that we're saying that it should work to. I'd rather try to be protected than not try at all. And then like be at risk for COVID and whatever, COVID 31 next year. There's so many variants, all this stuff. But yeah, let me not be dramatic, but
the Delta, Sigma.
Yeah, Theta.
It's a lot, man. And I think what people need to do is, I just encourage people to be informed, all jokes aside, like just be informed. Don't make decisions based off of like just your emotions and your knee-jerk response. I think it does pay to be cautious, but if you do the research on these vaccines and you actually read for yourself, you'll find out that, in my opinion, it's well worth the the jab in the arm. So I've taken my first dose. I'm actually meant to take my my second dose next week. At which point I'm hoping COVID just disappears. Right?
Wouldn't that be great? You just wake up one day and it's like no sign of COVID anywhere.
Yeah, it's just done. So I do have a couple more things for us to run through here. Just like the last episode, this conversation's just blazing through. But you mentioned last year, guys, if you joined us somewhere through the middle of this, Kiera and I spoke last year, basically at the peak of COVID, somewhere in July. And you mentioned living in a guitar center in Huntsville. I don't know if you remember that. So I kind of wanted to ask you, what's the music scene in Huntsville like? And I'm assuming this is Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah, that's Alabama. Okay. Oh man, I do miss my peoples down there. I really do. Yeah. I think it's great. I learned a lot being down there. I learned how to church. That's how they say it. I learned a lot about quartet music down there. I did not know one thing about quartet music before I went down there. And they do have quartet up here. They have quartet everywhere, but it wasn't until I was there that I really like found out about it for real. People are nice. I think there's a lot of people that I've met down there that I will never forget. It's very, very nice. The approach to music is different. I mean, like any city, any state kind of has its sound. They really like to be locked in that groove. That taught me like that kind of like discipline of finding a groove and like really, really getting the most out of it. Now I still be liking to move around, but it's a mindset that I do really do appreciate, and things like that. But there are some really talented folk down there, like really talented folk down there.
Send a few shout outs.
Okay, like we got Javon Seeley, he's a drummer out there, he's amazing. Lemarion, also a drummer, amazing. Andrew Strong the third, he played organ and keys, does production. Junior Gator, also amazing. He just put out a CD, so go on ahead and find him now. There's Brandon Pear, Tasha Kelsey, I can't even, there's so many names. Like I'm gonna Shaquille. Oh man, Steven Manders. Like there's just so many people. Like I don't even want to, I'm going to miss people. So I don't want to like go ahead and give a longer list because I don't want to leave people out. But if y'all just go down to Huntsville, Alabama, just go down there. Huntsville, Decatur area. It's real, they're real talented out there. Darius CA. Like I'm about to
so many names, huh?
So many. And then there's some people that went there for school and now are part of the music scene there too. Like Daniel Scott, Ethan Severin, Fred Tate.
Daniel Scott?
Also. Pardon?
Is Daniel Scott on keys?
Yeah.
Wait.
The world
pretty
is
sure I'm pretty sure I know Daniel Scott, but all right. Did he go to Andrews at one point?
No. Yes, he did, I believe.
Oh yeah. Shout out to Daniel.
Yeah, shout out. Like Deontay Laborde, Andrew Downer. There's so many great musicians down there right now. Bryce, over at Indian Creek, and he directs DP's choir now. Bryce Davis, David Hector. Like there's so many people. Oh man. Yeah,
shout out to everybody. Shout out to Huntsville. Sounds like somewhere I should be, taking a drive to one day. But yeah, sounds like there's a lot of talent there. The Cadence would be happy to stroll through Huntsville. The other thing on the docket, because our time is blazing, you mentioned last year that you really wanted to touch the organ. You've been trying to learn organ. Did you stick with that?
Yeah. I'm still working, trying to get this knowledge in there. Organ is hard.
That's what you said.
Well, that didn't change.
What's the hard part to you?
There's just so many things happening at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to think about the chords you're playing, soloing over that, or if you're not soloing, you're playing chords and extensions of chords and different things that make the chord sound different, like tritones, or I mean, not tomorrow. I think it's tritone. Yeah. Anyways, Then you're thinking about the drawbars. You're thinking about the Leslie switch. You're thinking about the pedals to play the bass notes. You're thinking about all the presets and all the everything. There's just like so much that goes into getting the sound that you want from the organ. And there's so many different styles of playing it. And even for one song, there's so many different ways to play it if you're playing by yourself. If you're playing with a full band, if you're doing like a solo, like there's so many different things to learn for each thing. And then I'm a bass player, so I look at things in terms of shapes. Mm-hmm. Ain't no shapes. There are you have to change your entire approach to music when you learn keys. But I think that is a good thing, because then you end up realizing certain things that maybe you've known but not really, and it opens up so many other doors in your musical thinking about how things are interconnected and things like that. So it's been a journey, and I need to put in more work for it. I'm not gonna hold you. The last couple months I've been, slacking a little bit, just a little bit, but definitely is something that I want to take all the way, because organ speaks to my soul,
Would you say that learning organ has made you a better bass player?
I think so. There's a lot of things I've learned and been able to apply to my bass playing from learning organ. A lot of things. And I think just being able to understand music at a different level, because as a bass player, I don't really think about all that goes into chords. But playing organ, like you realize that, a chord can be made up of many different notes, and on bass I can use that to think about substitutions, use that to think about different types of licks, like spelling out chords on bass as a run, playing around with the other parts of that chord, but also in a way that makes sense, to kind of create a different sound than normal. But yeah.
Folks, that was thunder right there. Y'all saw the look on her face. She was like, hold up. Oh man.
what's crazy? Actually, something that the last time when we did the interview, that same morning, I had like sprained my wrist and my ankle. It's like when we were doing the interview, I was dead sitting there like broken. But
you didn't say any of that.
I did it. I ended up like partially tearing some of the ligaments in my wrist.
Jeez.
And then my ankle too.
Yeah,
but it's crazy because I was thinking about like it's been a year. Like that's kind of cool. But yeah,
it's been a crazy year too. But
yeah, an insane year.
So go ahead.
Sorry. I was gonna say somebody told me that sports and music don't mix well. But
what were you playing? Did you say what you were playing when you got injured?
oh, I was playing basketball.
You hooping. All right. You were dunking on somebody.
It's crazy because I was getting somewhere and I went past my defender and I was running and all of a sudden my body said no. And I was about to make my shot. I was about to make my layup and my body went in a whole different direction than it was supposed to. But it would have went in. It would have went in, okay? But it didn't.
All right.
But
I'll take your word for it.
Thank you.
So before we wrap up, I want to open up the floor. I try to do this every time. Do you have any questions or suggestions for Caribbean Cadence? Last time we talked, it used to be called Lucian Musicians, so there's been a name change. But you have any thoughts or questions for us?
No, just keep doing what you're doing. I think it's great that you're exposing people to each other. You get to basically meet people through your platform, and I think that's great. Keep inspiring the folk,
Thanks. And then last but not least, do you have any encouragement or motivation for folks who, as you said, people are tired. People are tired of being inside, tired of mask mandates or having to think about, vaccine cards or whatever, just to live life. So any encouragement for the people out there?
Yeah, I think that it's important that one, we find things that we enjoy doing, that we can put focus on to a certain extent to kind of like even if it's just as a release or even if it's as a distraction. But pick up different hobbies and things like that. Now, when it comes to your craft, like sometimes it's okay to put your instrument down for like a day or so and kind of get yourself back together. We are human beings. And I think a lot of times we forget that. This year has been crazy. We're about to be in 2022. Like it's been a long time and it has a cost on our mental health. It has a cost on our emotional and even to some people physical health. And I think that we should practice self-care. And then now when we're refreshed, we can be the better musicians. That makes sense. Like we're not going to be effective if we drive ourselves to the ground. So it's important to take the time that we need to get ourselves together and then refocus on what we're trying to achieve. Be kind to yourselves.
Okay. Yeah, that's very good. I'm going to say on my end, the main thing I want people to take away from me this episode is you can learn anything. You can learn anything. Of course, depending on your gifting or the level of talent you were born with, it might take you less time, but you can learn anything. And that doesn't just go for music. That doesn't just go for songs. It goes for life. Mm-hmm. Like if there's something that you've always wanted to do, learn it. It might take a while, but you'll learn it. That's true. All right. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. If you have nothing else, do you have anything else?
Just thank you all for listening and watching. Thank you for having me back.
A pleasure. Again, 1 year later. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I will see you guys again in August. And, in the meantime, stay easy. Bye for now.
Black suit.